All right, y'all, what's going on? Welcome to the Monday Light, Monday Light, Monday night live stream. Having some tech issues where nothing apparently was acting right today. Talking about the audio or the camera. But all right, so hopefully everything goes well tonight. So tonight, basically, we got to talk about a issue on a raw vegan diet. Now, this is more so pertaining to a fully raw vegan diet. Now, my thing mainly is a high raw vegan diet where you do implement a few cooked meals per week. But I want to talk more about a fully raw vegan diet and a major pitfall in a fully raw vegan diet. Now, I'm not taking a shot at fully raw vegan diets and saying that it's a thing you shouldn't do or it's dangerous or anything like that, but it's an important thing to talk about. If you decide to do a fully raw vegan diet, the rules and food choices are going to be very different than, let's say, a high raw vegan diet, right? So I'm going to get into that. Specifically talking about rapid weight loss, unintended weight loss on a raw vegan diet. On a raw vegan diet, essentially, one of the main problems that people have is losing weight unintentionally or rapid unintended weight loss. Losing a lot of muscle mass in the process, feeling fatigued, weak, not performing well in the gym, this kind of thing. It is a problem most common among men on a fully raw vegan diet, right? A fully raw vegan diet can be very effective for losing weight, reversing chronic illnesses, and things like that. A fully raw vegan diet can also be very beneficial for building muscle mass and gaining weight, but the rules for a raw vegan diet are very different. All right? The macro split is very different, right? So for example, let's say if we have an omnivorous diet, like your standard American diet, or what like bodybuilders would typically suggest for people trying to build muscle, right? You'll see people where it'll be, I don't know, 40% carbs and 30% fat, or 30% protein, somewhere around there. Or maybe the carbohydrates may be slightly higher than that, or the fats, or whatever the case is, right? But of course they would say, oh, eat chicken breast, eggs, things of this nature. When you do a whole food, plant-based, let's say high raw vegan diet, your carbohydrate intake can be around 65%, and dietary fat would be around 10 or 15%, which is my norm, right? And then the rest would be protein. On a fully raw vegan diet, the split can be very different. Whereas your dietary fat can actually be a lot higher on a fully raw vegan diet, right? Because you're not eating as much whole grains or legumes, which are mostly carbohydrate-rich foods. So you would replace those foods with more nuts and seeds, which would be higher in dietary fats. This can get your dietary fats upwards of 20, 25, maybe even 30% dietary fat for some people, right? Now, on a fully raw vegan diet, you can eat way more food than you would have otherwise. So one thing that's very important to know about a fully raw vegan diet, let's say eating nuts and seeds per se, you don't absorb all of the dietary fat in nuts. It's very different than, like, let's say eating nut butter. Nut butter, you'll absorb all that fat, right? You can get fat off eating a lot of nut butter. But eating actual, like, whole nuts, it's a different story because of the dietary fiber and the molecular structure of the nuts. They could be like a good 20 or even 30% of the dietary fat that you're not actually absorbing, right? So even if, let's say, a cup of nuts is anywhere from 600 something to 700 calories in play, it could be more along the lines of 5 and change, right? In the digestive process, the food interacts with your gut in a very different way. And we know the molecular structure of the food matters because this is why we prefer whole foods over processed foods. Right? The more you process a food, you increase nutrient absorption straight across the board. Right? But there are some limitations with that. It could be something like, look, the difference between instant oats, rolled oats, and steel cut oats. Very big difference between the two. Right? So when I suggest something like oats, it'd be more along the lines of rolled oats, somewhere in between. Right? There's a very big difference, for example, between rice cakes and actual rice. Very big nutrient difference. The difference is the processing, and this applies to foods. And the thing is that a raw vegan diet is a straight up whole food diet. Minimal to no processing whatsoever. All right. So whereas, let's say if you're doing a fully raw vegan diet, whereas normally you can get away with eating maybe 1,500 calories a day if you're eating cooked meals, a fully raw diet, you may be eating an extra 500 to 1,000 calories. Right? If you're doing a fully raw diet and you're trying to gain muscle mass, you're in the gym training, you may be eating around 2,600 to 3,200 calories a day. Right? You would be getting 400 grams of carbs a day and probably 60 to 100 grams of dietary fat in a day. And then as far as protein is concerned, it would be more along the lines of like anywhere between 60 and 80 and change. So your macros would look very different. So as far as a raw vegan diet is concerned, it's just straight up predominantly fruits, leafy greens, nuts, and seeds, right? And honestly, I really enjoy eating a fully raw diet, especially when my schedule is tight. As a matter of fact, when I was doing alternate day fasting during the summer and eating a fully raw vegan diet, my dietary fat was significantly increased. And I was able to build muscle mass as well as retain muscle mass doing that, even though I was only eating 4 days a week and fasting 3 days a week. Right? So if you followed me on TikTok or Instagram or whatnot, in 2022 or whatever the case is, with all of those videos where I was out in the woods and all of this type of stuff, just eating fruits, not only was I eating fully raw, but I was also doing alternate day fasting for a period as well. And that changed a lot of my life of how I perceived food. And that's when I realized, hey, you don't need as much protein. You don't really need to eat cooked foods. You really only need to train 30 minutes at a time, right? And you don't need to even eat every day. Eating 4 days a week is often enough, depending on how you do it. And that was a big revolutionary period in my life where I learned a lot because I wanted to understand why. Right? So if you're doing a fully raw vegan diet and you're trying to create a body transformation, I stand by the fact that the most effective way to drop body fat is to implement some form of fasting. Right? That is true. The caveat is that you have to be well fed, otherwise it's not going to work. Because you end up pushing yourself deeper into a nutrient deficiency if you jump the gun and engage in any type of extensive fasting without being well fed. Because if you're cutting calories, which a lot of people do, and they're trying to lose weight because people really want to get lean, but you don't just cut calories. You cut magnesium, you cut manganese, you cut iron, you cut your B vitamins, you cut vitamin C. There's a lot of cutting being done of resources, vital resources that the human body really needs. So you don't want to get too aggressive with the cut for too long. If you're going to do any type of calorie deficit, it really should be around, I don't know, a 15% calorie deficit for 12 to 16 weeks maybe, right? and then get back into getting well fed. But it depends on where you start. Same thing with a raw vegan diet. Let's say you're doing a raw vegan diet and you're diabetic. It's a really good idea to have minimal fats, where maybe as far as your dietary fat is concerned, you're eating anywhere from a half a gram to a whole gram of fat per kilogram of lean mass. And then as far as your carbs are concerned, you're eating anywhere from 4 to 6 grams of carbs per kilogram of lean mass. It's a good strategy. Now, if you're trying to gain weight, if you're trying to build muscle, especially if you're metabolically healthy, well, the rules are going to be fundamentally different, where you would eat, around 4 times a day. Right? So let's say you wake up first thing in the morning, you have 4 pounds of fruit. And then your second meal is something a little bit heavier, where you have chia pudding or something like that, with a pound of berries, right? And then your third meal is another several pounds, 3 to 4 pounds of fruit. And then your final meal is more so of like your fats, your avocados, your crushed walnuts, pistachios, almonds, leafy greens, things like that. And that would be like the layout of like how your diet would look, right? So when you sit down with your fruit bowl, ideally your fruit bowl, any fruit bowl you eat, it should be in between 4 and 600 calories, right? You don't really eat calories, but just for the simplicity of conversation, this is a good guideline to follow. When you eat enough, you're not going to unnecessarily lose weight. You're not going to unintentionally lose weight. You'll drop body fat, right? Because a raw vegan diet is not really geared towards retaining excess body fat. It's not really a thing that's easily done on a raw vegan diet. And the reason for that is because a raw vegan diet is one of the best ways to improve your gut microbiome, your digestive health. Right? So if you're eating, let's say a ton of greens and a ton of fruit, especially when it's diversified, right? You're eating all of your colors, you're getting all types of different fibers, you're getting a lot of fiber, you're eating several gallons of water a day. Because if you eat 10 pounds of fruit in a day, right, you're going to be eating, if you eat 15, 16, 20 pounds of fruit in a day, you're going to be eating gallons of water. So you're going to be keeping your body adequately hydrated, which maximizes oxygenation, which maximizes nutrient uptake inside your gut. And you have all of this fiber running through, and the fiber is helping to heal the infrastructure of your stomach and your entire gut lining, your digestive tract. The insoluble fiber then feeds your good gut bacteria. Right? So you get prebiotics, you get probiotics, and you get postbiotics, which are the chemical compounds that your gut bacteria releases that has a variety of different benefits. For example, short chain fatty acids, which are a type of postbiotic that is released from your gut bacteria. Right? So when you eat apples, for example, and that ferments in your gut, that's what you get as a result. Right? You get those short chain fatty acids. And that helps to expedite your fat metabolism, right? Makes fat metabolism easier for your body to engage in, to actually tap into fat for stored energy. A lot of people advocate for, drinking apple cider vinegar for this purpose. Well, eating apples pretty much does the same thing. The only difference is you're not drinking something that's highly acidic that's going to result in erosion of your esophagus, right? Of course, if you want to inhibit the erosion of your esophagus drinking apple cider vinegar, you better make sure it's diluted well. Secondly, we have to address the training. A couple years ago, I want to say 3 years ago, one really important lesson that I learned about training is you don't need to do as much training volume to build muscle as you think you do. As a matter of fact, most people do too much training volume. So let's say you're on a raw vegan diet and you're under eating, because it just seems like a lot of food. Like the volume of food is so high. Like if you sit down with a bowl of watermelon where like it's like 4 pounds of watermelon in one sitting. It's just this big, huge bowl of watermelon, or this big, huge bowl of cantaloupe, right? Or a pound of strawberries, or 2 pounds of strawberries. You're like, it's a lot of fruit in one sitting. My goodness. I've had people tell this to me all the time, right? I create diet plans for people and they look at it and they go, wow, 2 pounds of grapes? 8 bananas? Seems like a lot. I'm like, yeah, your gut will thank you for it. You're going to learn, you're going to be well fed, right? The rules are totally different. You're getting a ton of B vitamins and then it's accompanied with gallons of water. Imagine your diet possesses all these micronutrients, carbohydrates that are very easily absorbed into all of your cells in your body. And this is like the perfect recipe for having an abundance of energy. The only way you're going to be lacking energy on a raw vegan diet is if you're under eating. That's the only way it's going to happen. So when people come to me and they say, I tried a raw vegan diet before, but I was very tired. And I was like, okay, well, you were really, how come you were so tired? How many meals a day were you eating? I was eating like 2 or 3. Oh, you were under eating. Were you working out? Yeah, I tried to work out. I would work out like 3 days a week or so. Oh yeah, how long were your workouts? I would work out for like an hour, maybe an hour and 20 minutes. Oh, that's way too long. You need to cut that time in half. Really? Cut it in half? Yeah. I get a lot of ambitious guys who will come to me really motivated to build muscle. And they go, yeah, I've been training 5 or 6 days a week, but I'm not really building any muscle. I'm like, that's why you're training 5 or 6 days a week. And you're only eating 3 meals a day. That's why you're not building any muscle. By the way, this is my ginger turmeric tea. I like to drink this before bed. 1 gram of turmeric powder, 1 gram of ginger powder in the mug with, well, this is a big mug, so like 10 ounces of hot water for tea. So this is what I end after I finish eating all of my meals for the day. So a lot of people, what they really need to do is eat more and train less. Right. Now, the interesting thing too is that when I was doing alternate day fasting, I was able to drop body fat, but still retain and build my strength. And I was doing that. I was kind of skeptical when I first started doing it, but I'm like, I did it for like 16 weeks and I was actually able to consistently increase my training performance and drop body fat and build muscle and able to do both at the same time while only eating 4 days a week. I was like, this is really interesting. And only training like 30 minutes a training session. I said, this is really interesting. Now, what I was doing at the time is I was doing this. And I have, so for me, when I'm doing these 20 or 30 minute training sessions, which I'm a really big fan of, there's 2 ways of doing it. One way is you do 1 set per exercise. Okay, now, so I'm going to get into that. So if you do 1 set per exercise, the entry level to that is you do 1 set and you take that 1 set all the way to failure, meaning you do as many reps as you possibly can within that 1 set while maintaining good form. If your form breaks down, you stop. The upgrade from that is where you do like 3 sets inside of 1 set. So you do that 1 set, you take that set all the way to failure, you rest 15 seconds, you squeeze out another couple reps, you rest 15 more seconds, and then you squeeze out another couple reps, and then boom, you're done with that exercise. And you do that on every exercise that you do, right? So if you do 4 exercises or 5 exercises, right? Essentially what happens is if you do 5 exercises, that's 5 times 3. So technically it's 15 sets. But in actuality, it's more along the lines of like 5 reps. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. So you're getting the effective training volume But then you're also really significantly cutting down your training volume by really cutting your rest periods by like 3/4, right? 3/4. So instead of resting for like a full minute between sets, it's just 15 seconds. The other route is you have a rep goal and you do as many sets as it takes to reach that rep goal. So let's say my rep goal is 25 reps. Now, this would be equivalent to, let's say you do an exercise and you do 5 sets of 5 reps. That would equal 25 reps. But let's say you took a weight that you can do a maximum of 16 reps with, and you pushed it all the way to that 16 reps. And then you rested for 30 seconds and then did several more reps. And let's say you went from 15 and you squeezed out 4 more, you got to 19. You rest 30 seconds, you squeeze out a few more, you get to 22. You rest another 30 seconds, you get all the way to that 25. And that's another way to do it, right? So the first set and the second set is going to be the hardest sets. And then the last set may actually be the easiest, right? It just depends. But essentially what you're doing is you're front loading the intensity. One thing you have to understand about building muscle is the only thing that really matters when it comes to building muscle size is how hard you push the muscle. It doesn't matter how much training volume, not as much as you think. Training volume matters. Like, so for example, I wouldn't say go to the gym and do 4 reps per muscle group. I wouldn't say that because that's not an effective training volume, right? But if you're doing 25 reps and every rep is a difficult rep, or you push the muscle as hard as possible, you will grow. So an example of this would be if you let's say you did 2 exercises. Let's say you wanted to build your legs and you do 2 exercises to build your quads and your glutes. One of those was, let's say, an isolation exercise, and you did anywhere from 16 to 20 reps on that, maybe even 30 reps. And then the second exercise was more along the lines of like 6 reps to 10 reps or 8 reps to 12 reps. That was the rep range. And you did as many reps as possible. Let's say you were able to squeeze out 15 to 16 reps in that set, but you pushed it all the way to failure. It's not the sets that necessarily matter, it's the amount of reps you do and how deep into the set you get and how much time under tension you put the muscle. That's what really matters. You want to create tension because the goal is you want to activate and maximize muscle fiber usage. So you want to tap into as many muscle fibers as you can because you want to stimulate the muscle. That's really what the training is all about. If you take a weight that you can do 16 reps with, and you do a set of 8 and then you rack it and you wait for a minute, and then you do another set of like 8 and then you rack it, and you keep doing that, that's not going to build muscle because you're already adapted to building with that weight. Your body is already adapted to lifting that weight. So there is no adaptation that needs to take place because you're already adapted to it. You have to push the muscle that you're training beyond its comfort zone. You have to introduce a new stimulus. And this signals to your body, this signals to your brain, hey, this is a threat to your body's infrastructure. So let's build that muscle back thicker and stronger. Right? Muscle grows as a defense mechanism. This is really what it is. Because the muscle protects your body. It protects your bones from breaking. It protects your tendons and ligaments, right? It's a defense mechanism. And so essentially, you have to threaten your body with resistance training. If the resistance training is hard enough, it registers as a threat and your brain responds to that threat by building back that muscle thicker and stronger. Muscle growth is kind of like an inflammatory response, interestingly enough. If you work a muscle, the muscle will be inflamed as a result, right? Inflammation is any activation of your immune system, right? So your immune system in a very short period of time really gets ramped up, because training while you're pushing a muscle is going to damage and fatigue that muscle. This is a thing that activates your immune system to then come and make hormonal and chemical changes to provide support to that muscle. Right? So the breakdown of a muscle is called catabolism, and then the building up is called anabolism, right? So you heard these two states, catabolic and anabolic. Training is largely catabolic. And so what your body does is it overcorrects and responds to that catabolism with anabolism, putting the muscle in an anabolic state. And your body will be geared towards doing this for the rest of the day, right? Literally, resistance training will rapidly increase your insulin sensitivity. So if you eat carbohydrates shortly after training, your insulin sensitivity and your glucose uptake will be heightened like crazy. So the cells of your muscles and your entire body, your brain and everything, it just suck that glucose right up and put it to good use. Because your body wants to fill up the glycogen stores of the muscle, rush oxygen and blood and nutrients and everything to the muscle to begin that healing and recovery process. Now, this happens over a 24 or 36 hour period. And the deeper it gets into that period, it starts to ramp off, and then, you know, by the time it fully tapers off, it's time to get into your next training session. If you're new to resistance training, that process can take 72 hours. If you're more trained, it can be like 32 or 36 to 24 hours, or even 12 hours. It'd be a much shorter period of time, right? People who are more trained, they can recover a bit quicker, but of course it depends on lifestyle habits, right? Now, granted that you're eating enough, your digestive tract is going to be pretty busy, especially when you're eating like fiber-rich foods and you got a lot of food volume flowing through your digestive tract. To digest a full day's worth of eating, it could take roughly 36 hours. So the food I ate today, my body will be using those resources even tomorrow. And muscle protein synthesis happens in like these 8-hour periods. So for me personally, I have like 2 high protein meals a day. And those high protein meals for me personally are like 40 to 60 grams at a time of protein, right? So I'll have one earlier in the day, and then like, you know, 6 hours later or so, I'll have like another protein rich meal. But in between all of that, it's just carbohydrates, just flooding into carbohydrates. So typically with the majority of my meals are like 120, 150, maybe even 160 grams of carbs. So within 4 meals, I can get at least 400 grams of carbs. And I wouldn't really have to worry about high blood sugar for one, because of all the fiber is going to slow down the gastric release of glucose into my bloodstream. That's number one. And then number two, my insulin sensitivity is pretty significant. So with my training, I don't really have to worry about having much of a high blood sugar. And that's just for me personally, right? So having a high carb diet and then engaging in short bouts of resistance training and doing that 3 times a week, maybe 4, this can significantly improve your metabolism. So when you train too long, let's say you don't do 30 minutes, but instead you do a full hour. Well, you can do a full hour of training, but the thing is, when you start training, you're on the clock. So once you start training and you hit your first set, your body is going to really start churning through stored glucose. It's going to start churning through your glycogen stores in your muscle tissue and burning through that. Now you can take rest minutes in between each set, but if you're on a very high carbohydrate diet, let's say you're on a fruitarian style diet where it's like very minimal fat, you're gonna run out of glycogen real quickly. Right? So your body's gonna start tapping into stored fat pretty quickly into your workout. It's gonna happen like within the first 20 minutes of your training roughly. So if you're on this fruitarian style diet and you're training past that 20-minute mark, you're gonna really start feeling it. Right? If you're more of an advanced trainee where you've been a fruitarian for a much longer period of time and you're well fed, you'll be fine. But if you're a newbie, you've been under training, you're under eating, I should say, you're gonna have problems. Right? And this is why making sure you have the fats in is so important. And then also, you know, when you have your chia seeds, your flax seeds, your hemp seeds, your almonds, your walnuts, your cashews, your avocado. The reason why these things are so important is because this is where you're going to get a lot of your omega-3 essential fatty acids from, omega-6 essential fatty acids, your selenium, your zinc, your magnesium, your manganese. These important minerals and essential fatty acids and whatnot that are needed to create new DNA. Right? So if you're doing a raw vegan diet and you cut your fats too low, you can put yourself in a deficit. One of the most common deficits is a zinc deficiency. Now, the caveat is if you do, like, let's say a raw fruitarian diet, but instead of having any significant amount of fats in there, you do sea moss. Sea moss is a very rich source of the minerals I just mentioned. And you do spirulina, where you can get your omega-3 essential fatty acids from the spirulina. You can get it from chlorella. You can get it from sea moss. Right? But if you're not doing any of those things and you're on a fruitarian diet and you got your fats very minimal, you can get away with that for 12, 16 weeks, maybe even 20 weeks. But the longer you do it, you can start running into problems. Some people, they run into problems quicker than others. It depends. If you're gonna do like a diet where your fats are like really low, you barely eat any fats at all, this is very good if you wanted to like correct a specific metabolic issue, or you wanted to reverse certain food issues, like let's say food allergies or chronic gut health issues, or you wanted to lose a significant amount of weight. That would be a good idea to do. If you're gonna do that, it would be a good idea to supplement though with magnesium and zinc. And you could do that, let's say, once or twice a day, if you're not going to do like the sea moss or the chlorella, the spirulina, that kind of thing. Right? But you want that EPA and that DHA covered if you're going to do that. Right? So these are like the different pitfalls to look out for. So it depends on what your goal is. And the thing is, the way that you set up your plan, it's going to look different from everybody else's. So it's not like you could just have this blanket raw vegan plan and it's just going to work for everybody regardless of what the goal is. It depends. Right? Some people, it could be completely legit for them to have a raw vegan diet where their dietary fat's like 30%. 30% is really kind of high. But it can be justified to do 30%. Maybe because you're doing a raw vegan diet, but you're engaging in a pretty extensive fasting strategy. Then that 30% may be warranted. If you are trying to reverse diabetes, then yeah, you may want to have like your dietary fats around, 10-15%. Right? Or you may want to have it more along the lines of 15-20%, where you do the chia pudding, the coconut yogurt, and the avocado. Right? These are good foods for like a diabetic, for example. Right? Just simply because very important sources of magnesium, omega-3 essential fatty acids, and things like that help improve your mitochondrial function in your body, right? Helps to reverse fat buildup in the liver, excessive fatty deposits in the liver, that kind of thing. If you have a sensitivity to nuts, Well, that's where a high raw vegan diet kicks in, where instead, now you can have your fats at 10% and be fine because you got legumes, which are predominantly carbohydrates. So if you have, let's say you're allergic to, let's say, nuts, then you maybe just want to do seeds and legumes. So some people say, I want to do a raw vegan diet, but I have an allergy to nuts, which is why when I've been doing the raw vegan diet, I haven't really been eating any nuts. And so their fats could potentially be too low and they could be under eating as a result because they're not used to eating that much food volume. Because look, 10, 16 pounds of fruit a day, that's a lot for some people. It's a lot for most people, to be quite honest, right? Most people walk around chronically dehydrated all day. So if you go from being dehydrated every day, where you probably get 32, 36 ounces of water a day, and then you go on a raw vegan diet where now you're eating a few gallons of water a day, yeah, it may seem like a lot. And it is, right? Going from not even a single gallon to multiple gallons. It could seem like a lot. So these are like different pitfalls to look out for, right? So if you're doing a raw vegan diet, chances are you're going to be doing around 4 meals a day. You can get away with 3, but allow yourself to 4. So you have 2 heavier meals, and then you have, let's say, 2 fruit bowls, 2 big fruit bowls, right? Or you can do 6 to 8 bananas and then a big fruit bowl, right? That works as well. So if you allow yourself more meals, you can kind of space it out. And if you think about like with the schedule, people say, oh, I'll be eating all day. Well, it's not really all day. So for an example, let's say you eat, let's say you have your first meal at 7 o'clock in the morning. Then you have your second meal at 10, 11 o'clock. Your third meal around like 2 or 3, maybe 4. And then you have your fourth meal at 6, 7 o'clock. Technically, you could say it's 7 to 7. It's a pretty full day of eating, but not any more than your average person who eats a breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Right? If you think it's eating all day, and it's like, well, it may seem like it's eating all day because you're used to under eating. So when people say to me, oh, that's like eating all day. Well, it seems like eating all day to you because you only eat 1 or 2 meals a day. You're skipping a lot of meals, which is the reason why your metabolism is the way that it is. And if you want things to change, you have to eat your way out. So let me catch up with some of y'all in these comments here. Hold on. Let me catch up with y'all. I want to do raw vegan, but veggies give me gas pain and abdominal pain. You can actually do a raw vegan diet and not really eat much leafy greens. So the leafy greens could be beneficial, but it's not really, it's not necessary, right? And I know plenty of like, as a matter of fact, when I do like a fully raw diet, I'll have several days out of the week where I don't really eat much leafy greens. So, you can eat 8 cups of leafy greens, you can eat 4 or not have any at all. Right? So there's a variety of different ways to do it. Why is protein measured in grams? If you need the amino acids to build protein, are the grams of complete amino acids? So when they say you need this many grams of protein, is the amino acids? Yeah, so basically, essentially they use the metric system and they weigh like a certain amount of milligrams of the amino acids. But when they say proteins, they're mainly talking about branched chain amino acids, which is your valine, leucine, and isoleucine, right? So that's not really accurately calculated as far as the amino acids. It's really more of a ballpark number, right? Which is the best we can do. But yeah, you do need the amino acids at the end of the day, yeah. Can you just use resistance bands 3 times a week? That's exactly what I was doing, actually. Yeah, using, I spent 2 years out of the gym just using body weight and resistance bands. As a matter of fact, my leg workout was resistant leg curls with the resistance band and walking lunges. Right? So leg day would be like 100 walking lunges where I would go on the track and just do as many walking lunges as I could, and every week I would try to do more and more and more of the walking lunges. In the beginning it feels like cardio, and then it becomes resistance training. But it was phenomenal as far as putting size on my legs. No weights needed. You just do walking lunges just for distance. That actually builds, that is very effective at building leg mass. Yeah, drink a big smoothie every day. Frozen fruit is cheaper. True. Yeah, getting those fruits in a blender. Thoughts on not eating so much fruit as a raw vegan? It's not financially feasible for me currently. Yeah, look, if it's a lot of fruit, that's when you may want to do like a high raw vegan diet where you implement some cheaper foods, right? Where you do, your legumes, where you can buy, let's say quinoa in bulk. You can buy lentils in bulk. You can buy split peas in bulk. You can buy any type of legumes really and just buy it in bulk, right? You can buy rolled oats in bulk, right? So you can do overnight oats every day. You can do a cup of overnight oats on a daily basis, and you can cook a cup of lentils on a daily basis, right? And a cup of rolled oats has a caloric value of like 300 and change, and then the lentils is like around 300 and change, close to 400. I think it's like, no, I'm sorry, 1 cup of lentils measured dry is like 650, somewhere around there. So in between those two, that's already like a caloric value of 900 and change, right? So that's not bad. And then bananas are like really cheap. So like, let's say if you wanted to eat more fruit but you wanted to do it for cheaper, well, bananas are really cheap. I'm trying to think what else you can buy. And then also, if you add, let's say, plant-based milk, like let's say you add a cup and a half of plant-based milk, like let's say soy milk or something like that. That could be another, or pea milk, right? Milk made from peas, or cashew milk, or whatever the case is. A cup and a half of that could be like around 120 to 160 calories. 6 bananas can be 6, maybe even 700 calories around, depending on the size of the bananas. So this adds up, right? So you can do a raw vegan diet and make it affordable, right? But if you wanted to maximize the affordability, you may want to do more of a high raw vegan diet strategy. Well, you say you aspire, Cali girl, what's going on? You aspire to be fully raw eventually? Just feel so good on raw whole foods. True. So there's a lot of different ways to do things. Yeah, 100 walking lunges. I got up to like 200 and change on my walking lunges. I think eventually I got bored though. I wanted to do something else. I was so sore doing all of them walking lunges, let me tell you. So yeah, also like if you're doing a lot of leafy greens and they're giving you like gas and things like that, you can have low stomach acid as a result. So you may want to have more foods in your diet with malic acid. Like you may want to eat more apples, pears, pineapples, cherries, cranberries, strawberries, really any kind of berries, kiwis, things like that. And that can increase Well, that can increase the amount of stomach acid you produce and bring it up to a healthy level, right? So you may need to do that. So the thing with dietary fats is you do need enough stomach acid to metabolize the dietary fats as well as the leafy greens, right? Because those cruciferous greens, your stomach has to be able to have enough acid to be able to break that down. And the same case is with fats. Fruits are a bit easier because, well, your gut doesn't really have to work that hard to break them down. Right? Fruits are like one of the easiest foods on your gut. Right. If you got gut health issues though, having a probiotic rich food in your diet like coconut yogurt, having citrus fruits in your diet, that's a big deal. So grapefruit, oranges, tangerines, pomelos, right? These types of things. That's really beneficial for your gut health in general, as well as having enough stomach acid. Right? Yeah, pineapple, papaya, those are good for your gut health, right? And balancing the stomach acid. I believe I have yeast and candida issues, and fruit flares me up and leaves me constipated. Yeah, so I think that's where it would be a good idea to implement some type of herbal and fasting strategy, right? So, like for example, if I had like a serious issue in my stomach with like candida or whatever the case is, I would probably do like a 7-day fast, and drink, moringa tea or soursop tea, turmeric tea, ginger tea, right? These types of things, and take black seed oil, right? If you have an issue with acid reflux, you may want to avoid the black seed oil, right? It depends, because if you're having acid reflux, you may not want to do the black seed oil. You may want to just stick to more of the herbal teas like the moringa tea or the soursop tea, turmeric, ginger, hibiscus, these things like that. And the reason why I'm naming those is because they're antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral. So they help to clear up stomach infections, right? And fungal overgrowths and things like that. So I've had people with like H. pylori and things like this, and we pretty much were able to reverse these issues, right? But whatever you do, you don't do the antibiotics. And for future reference though, if you have like the candida and yeast issue, to keep that from coming back, I'm not a big fan of wheat. I would say to avoid wheat, avoid anything with yeast in it, like leavened bread, right? These types of things, processed foods made out of all types of flour and whatnot, I would avoid those. I wouldn't mess with wheat. Definitely no dairy. And processed sugars, absolutely not. So whatever kind of pastries and things, cookies, cakes, none of that. What are your thoughts on coherent structured water? I've been using this, what is that called? Enema wand? Oh, I haven't heard of that. There's this machine though. What is it called? It's called the Kangen or the Kaigen or something like that. And it makes it like it's like this ionizing device that pretty much alkalizes your water. I mean, I've heard good things about it, right? I don't have strong thoughts on it. I've never really tried it. So if I don't have really strong opinions on anything that I haven't used myself or know that works or have implemented in any of my plans and have seen results from it, so I don't really have strong opinions. So from what I've heard, I've heard good things about it, but I don't have strong opinions. But that's one of the things that I want to use though in the future, is getting one of those machines. Yeah, exactly. How's it spelled? The Kagen? Yeah, that thing. Oh, they have studies on it? Yeah, I got to look into that. I haven't read any studies on it. When you mentioned the legume and quinoa, is that cooked? Yeah, those would be cooked foods. Yeah, I wouldn't advise you to eat raw quinoa or legumes. Is GERD and acid reflux curable? Yes, I've had several people reverse those issues. So I have experience with reversing acid reflux and gout, right? And we've pretty much so far I've had like a 100% success rate with that. So I feel pretty confident in saying what exactly reverses those issues. When people get like acid reflux in particular, it's because they eat way too much saturated fat and protein. The more protein and fat you eat, it causes your body to create more acid. Right? Because the acid is needed in order to break down the proteins and the fat. So the more protein and the fat that you eat, the more acid gets built up in your stomach. And if you don't have the necessary buffers like calcium or magnesium, for example, to control your stomach acid, the stomach acid can overflow into your lower esophagus. So that's essentially what happens there. So when you start having a more alkalizing diet, and more carbohydrates in your diet, whole food carbohydrates, the soluble fiber helps to regulate the acid in your stomach, and then the calcium and magnesium, particularly in those foods, help to level out the acid issue in your stomach. Spicy food also causes GERD. I wouldn't say spicy food causes GERD. No, I haven't seen that. It can make it worse potentially, but that depends on how much you're eating and what you're having those spices with. So if you're having those spices with like a significant amount of like, let's say, fat and protein, then yeah, it can cause an issue over time. How do you reverse gout? Essentially, you got to have a more alkalizing diet and you got to lower uric acid. One of the things that really helps to lower uric acid is vitamin C, right? So, things like, let's say, kiwis or strawberries really help with reversing gout. Apples as well. Apples help to reverse gout. Grapefruit is one of those foods that's really good for reversing gout, right? Those citrus fruits, lime juice, that really helps with reversing gout. Black seed oil, that helps to, cranberry juice, cherry juice. I'm not a big fan of juice, like getting store bought, juice. I would rather eat the fruit itself. But yeah, cherries, that helps too. Yeah. And then just having more magnesium-rich foods, having more folate-rich foods, leafy greens, foods with quercetin in it also helps to reverse gout. Malic acid, that also helps, right? So there's a lot of things like that help to reverse that. So got to get that uric acid down. Uric acid is usually a result of like fried foods, saturated fat, excess protein. And then you get an increase in uric acid as a result of that. You said no seitan either? Well, no seitan for what? I don't particularly eat much seitan. I don't know the effect that seitan has with like candida or yeast infection. I'm not quite sure. I can't say for sure with that. I haven't really experimented with that or read any studies on how it affects that. Master of the Cosmos. Appreciate you for tuning in. Absolutely. Do I eat tofu? I do. I haven't eaten tofu in a long time though. It's been a while. So I have my periods where if I feel like eating it, you know, I'll give it a good run eating tofu. But it's not really like a all year kind of thing. I actually don't really put it in many diet plans. So like I'll eat it. I don't really put it in diet plans very often though. Not because I have anything against it. It's just there's just a lot of foods that I'll put it in some, but you know, generally speaking, I don't use it. I don't particularly use tofu that much in diet plans. But I don't have anything against it. I mean, it's a great food. Tofu is a pretty rich source too of calcium and magnesium, right? So it's actually a very alkalizing food. What about acne? While on raw vegan and drinking tea, maybe need to do a cleanse. Hold on, wait a minute. You're experiencing a lot of acne from a raw vegan diet? Like the raw vegan diet, you're getting more acne on a raw vegan diet or what? I've never heard of anybody getting like an acne issue when going on a raw vegan diet. You may have a food allergy. So you may want to get a food allergy test to know if you have any food sensitivities. Tofu gives you inflammation in your digestive system. That's interesting. Yeah, you may have a food sensitivity. Yeah. But if you know you have that issue with it, then yeah, don't eat it. I've had people find out that they had food sensitivities to all types of stuff. I've had people who they had a food sensitivity to spinach, strawberries, pineapple, chia seeds. Like people have the most random food sensitivities sometimes. So yeah, I think like if you're experiencing like you're eating a solid diet and you're getting these weird issues and you don't know what it's coming from, you might have a food sensitivity. All right, so you definitely get a food sensitivity test. That'll tell you a lot. Folks, hit the like button, right? Like the stream if you like the stream. You know what I'm saying? We got a decent turnout tonight. Not bad. But yeah, definitely. And if you're not already subbed to the channel, sub to the channel. I'm on here live every Monday night. And if y'all want me to talk more about training, I could do that too, because we could talk about exercise selection and training plan development, right? What exercises should we do? How should we do them? Rep tempo, time under tension, progressive overload. You know, I actually started off as a fitness coach. That's like my entryway, right? So started off as a basic personal trainer, then got into performance enhancement, corrective exercise, strength and conditioning, then plant-based nutrition, chronic illness reversal. Is like a gradual progression. But yeah, I started on the fitness side. Gotten much better, but still slightly have some. You know what really helps with skin issues too? Zinc, vitamin E, and vitamin C. Vitamin C particular, you having high amounts of vitamin C in your diet really helps with skin quality. It helps to, you know, get rid of acne issues. What's a good green juice recipe? Well, it's not all greens, but some of my favorite juice recipes, one in particular that probably is my most favorite green juice recipe, is a whole beet with the beet greens, a large cucumber, one large 8-inch cucumber. Yeah, so beet, carrot, cucumber, Granny Smith apple, and then you can add, let's say, 4 cups of mustard greens. Training to get rid of menopause stomach. Oh. If it's all in the stomach, that's a gut health issue. Yeah, raw vegan is an insulin sensitivity builder. Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, you combine some serious resistance training with a raw vegan diet that has you well fed. Oh yeah. That insulin sensitivity. You fix your gut health, blood oxygenation, blood pressure, blood sugar, sleep quality, hormonal balance, everything. Big deal. Hit that like button, y'all. Show the stream some love. And if y'all have any other questions, let me know. I'll take a few more questions. And then I'm gonna head out. Do most skin issues come from the liver? Actually, typically, yes. Most do, actually, yeah. And, you know, acne, right? Things like that. Where you get the acne would give you an indication of what organ it is, right? So it's usually like, it's either going to be a digestive issue, so like in your actual digestive tract, or your liver, or your kidneys. It could also be a hormonal issue, like with your estrogen progesterone balance. So a lot of times it's liver, but not always. It really depends. Is it better to work out fasted? It really depends on what your goal is, and it depends on how you ate the day before. Right? So yeah, it depends. I think that if you fasted the day before, you shouldn't train fasted. You should eat first. If you were well fed the day before, training fasted should be fine, because you're gonna use in the morning, your blood sugar is gonna be elevated in the morning anyway from the cortisol that wakes you up in the morning. So if you're gonna do like a first thing early morning training session, you don't really need to eat before then, no. If you do eat before then, you can eat like some fruit. So like you can do, you know, a few bananas or a few kiwis or something like that. It depends. If you're trying to gain weight, and you may want to eat beforehand just to squeeze in that first meal before. So like you may want to do a few pounds of fruit, or at least a pound of fruit before you go to your training session. Right? So it really depends on your schedule, your goals, your digestive health, the time of day you want to train, you know, things like that. Can type 1 diabetes be cured? I believe it can. I just don't know the time frame. Because your pancreas, right, your body can gradually rebuild and develop new insulin producing beta cells in your pancreas. It just happens that it's a very slow process though. But I do know type 1 diabetics who are gradually improving their liver functionality. So it is possible, yeah. The teacup is massive. Yeah, this is an extra large teacup here. I'm a big tea fan. Just wanted to say you're very inspiring. Thanks for doing what you do. Doesn't go unnoticed. I appreciate that. Appreciate you tuning in. By the way, I do calls, right? So I do one-on-one calls. So I put a link in the description of this video where you can actually book a call with me. You get a full 60 minutes, and if you want a recording of the call, then let me know. and we can record the call, and then so you can have it and you can download it and you can refer back to it and whatnot like that as well, right? So 60 minutes, and we basically, spend that time talking about and strategizing what to do, what are some things to eat, identify your problems, things like that, right? So those calls are game changers. Those are life-changing calls, or at least I've been told, right? So definitely you can go on the link in the description and book one of those calls with me. I got to be better at plugging that. What would you recommend for someone with a brain or spinal injury? Oh, I don't know that. I could probably do a whole stream on that. I don't know. I mean, it depends, right? I mean, how severe is the injury? What kind of injury it is. So I don't know. I mean, something like that would have to be fixed through something more than just diet. I mean, diet would help, but I mean, you would need to engage in like corrective exercise. Like, how much of the person's motor processes did it affect? How bad is the damage? Right? Like, are they like a paraplegic, or, do they just have like some nerve damage issues where they got to like rehab some nerve issues? Do they have an underlying metabolic disorder? So, I mean, that's probably, I don't know if I can give a simple answer to that. I think that if you do have a brain or spinal injury, chances are there's a lot of swelling and inflammation. So you would want to get on an anti-inflammatory or a diet that significantly reduces oxidative stress, like a raw or high raw vegan diet, right? To get that inflammation down. Yeah, for sure. So I think, having a diet like that will get down the inflammation, and then that would allow you to better be able to engage in corrective exercise and rehab to be able to gain back some of those faculties. Also, having more chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, sea moss, or spirulina, chlorophyll, these kinds of things, or chlorella, these kinds of things would be really good to have in your diet for the omega-3 essential fatty acids, right? Because that could help with the brain injury. Do you think that acidic fruits are bad for acid reflux? I've had people with acid reflux. I haven't really had any issues with fruit. Maybe pineapple. I'd probably say you may not want to do the pineapple. You may not have a sensitivity to it. You may not. It depends on the person. That may require a bit of trial and error. But everything else should be fine. I think citrus fruits, though, definitely include those in your diet. It's pretty important. And papaya. But generally speaking, there's not really many fruits that you need to worry about. Because acid reflux is the issue with acid reflux is the excessive protein and saturated fat in the diet that's causing the ramping up of excessive acid production. Right? Your body creates more acid as a result to offset something else that you're doing, right? But fruit doesn't really like pathologically raise acid to any significant degree because there's not really much acid required to metabolize or digest fruit. What about winter? Oh yeah, I mean, if winter, that's when you're probably going to be doing more of a high raw diet, right? Like if you're somewhere where like nothing's in season, you may just be the only fruits you may have access to are like bananas, berries, apples, pears, and like maybe kiwis, right? Peaches, things like that. So it depends on what you have in season, right? I'm in an area right now, I just got a watermelon. I just got a beautiful like 15-pound watermelon. And that thing gave me like friggin' 3 huge containers worth of watermelon. I ate one of the containers today. The container was like this big and like this deep. And I think today I ate like 5 or 6 pounds of watermelon. So I kind of OD'd. It was right after my workout, so I just ate the whole thing of watermelon. I OD'd a little bit, but yeah. Good source of sea moss. That's a good, that's a good question. I can't really definitively say. I don't order much sea moss. There are like these sea moss capsules that I got. They seem to work pretty well. The thing for me is that supplementation, my diet is pretty solid, so I don't feel supplementation that much. But I've gotten good feedback on it from other people though. It's this sea moss, it's made by Wildcraft, I think is the company name, and they make it. But for like sea moss gel, is that what if that's what you mean, you may have to get that from somebody like locally who like and trust. So that requires a bit more research on my end to do. So I may have to reach out to some folks and be like, yo, if you got some good quality sea moss, let me know. Ship me some. I'll test it, and then I'll plug your stuff. So send some people your way to get some sea moss. So yeah, I can't really definitively say right now. For me to like endorse a supplement, like I have to be using it directly, and I have to see some kind of. There's a lot that goes into me doing that. I don't really. This is why I don't sell supplements. I don't do any partnerships really with supplements. If I do a partnership with a supplement, that means that I personally have been using it for a while and have seen substantial results from it. Because I don't want to be that dude on the internet hawking friggin' supplements. Let's see. No, Wildcraft, they have it in capsules. So yeah, I got a bit more research to do with the supplement thing. So yeah, there's not many. I would probably say, because if your diet is solid, you really don't need to supplement with much, to be quite honest. I think honestly, the only supplements I would probably recommend straight across the board are like vitamin D3. And that would be like for anybody straight across the board, vitamin D3. And then creatine monohydrate. Those would be like supplements, and creatine is not really necessary unless you're trying to like really build muscle and improve training performance, right? Creatine is great. It's not necessary, but it's great. Helps with insulin sensitivity, helps to improve brain function, especially in elderly people. And then of course the training aspect of it, right? And it's really cheap. What about K2? I wouldn't really suggest K2 unless somebody did a blood test and it came back they had a K2 deficiency, right? But most people, K2 deficiency is very rare actually. It's like what, 1 to 4% of the population. The only people who have like a K2 deficiency are infants and like octogenarians and up. So either you got to be like above 80 years old or you got to be like an infant. Those are the only people who really have like a K2 deficiency. So I don't really recommend vitamin K2 much because it's pretty easy to get from your diet. Vitamin D on the other hand, vitamin D deficiency on record is at like 40%. Vitamin D deficiency is very common across the population. Even in people who like, they eat and drink dairy, still vitamin D deficiency, which is pretty wild. So yeah, vitamin D is up there for me, especially in the winter time. In the summer, you may not really need it much if you're getting a healthy amount of sun exposure. But in the winter time, and if it's cloudy, yeah, that may be a good idea to supplement with that. If you have a metabolic disorder, it'd be a good idea to supplement with magnesium glycinate. So if you're struggling with obesity, you have diabetes, high blood pressure, that's a big one. I would definitely supplement with that if that's the case. But that's circumstantial. I wouldn't recommend that for everyone straight across the board. Like if you're a healthy person at a healthy weight, you don't really need to take magnesium glycinate. Oh, anxiety and depression. Magnesium glycinate would do well. But if you do the magnesium glycinate, it's a good idea a lot of the times to combine magnesium glycinate with zinc picolinate, where you supplement with both of them together, like before bed at night. That significantly improves brain function, mental health, sleep quality, blood pressure, and blood sugar. Yeah. So yeah, definitely, folks. You know, tap that like button, drop kick it. You know what I'm saying? Lean on it, rock with it. We got any other questions here before I head out? Can you reverse high blood pressure? Yeah, you could reverse high blood pressure pretty quickly, actually. I've had people, you know, reverse their high blood pressure in like a week. Your blood pressure can be normalized pretty quickly, actually. If you got high blood pressure, it'd be a good idea to eat like grapes or like grapefruit, right? High raw vegan diet. I mean, that is the go-to, right? If you got high blood pressure, I mean, you get enough fruit in your diet, yeah, you'll improve your blood pressure pretty easily. Is winter a time to eat less? It can be. It depends, though, right? I wouldn't say that for everyone straight across the board, because you have a lot of people who are chronically underfed all year round. So I would say it may be a season to eat more for some people. A lot of people who come to me, as a matter of fact, most of the people who come to me for help in a diet plan and things like that, I end up having them eat more than they're used to eating, like way more than they're used to eating. So we significantly increase the amount of food they eat. I never really ever have people come to me and they eat less than what they normally do. That's actually very rare. I usually increase people's food intake. What about taking protein powder? It's helpful. It's not needed. It's not necessary. As a matter of fact, most of the diet plans that I make, I don't even put protein powder in them. Honestly, it's kind of rare that I even put protein powder in anybody's diet plan. I really don't use protein powder in people's plans much. Most people don't really need it. I mean, you can. I use protein powder. I use like an unflavored naked pea protein powder, because there's certain recipes and foods that I like making. So I don't drink protein shakes, but I like to put like the protein powder in certain recipes. So that's what I use it for. So like if I make oat pudding, or like I make like hemp or flax chocolate peanut pudding, then I would use it for that. It's like a texture thing. It's filling. Yes, I just like it. It's more like a recipe thing. All right. Well, yeah, folks, I'm heading out. I think we covered it. We did well. So definitely, if you want to book that call with me, hit the link in the description. Also, if you go to my link tree, which is also in the description, you can sign up for my free newsletter. If you're not already on my newsletter, get on my newsletter. And I send you direct notifications of these live streams. All right. Plus anything else that I got to email y'all about that you may find valuable. All right. So having said that, I'm logging off and I'll see y'all. Oh, one more thing. I host member-only live streams for my Tribe by Noir members. All right. And those are Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern. So there's a link for that as well. I didn't put that in the description. I think it's in my link tree. But if you want to join that for the Thursday live streams, because I record those member exclusive Thursday live streams and I put the replay up for members. So members who are at the full access level, they get access to my high raw vegan nutrition course, my fasting guide, the members only streams, daily recipes, my member only Discord, training plans, all that kind of stuff. That's pretty much it. All right, folks. I'll catch y'all on the Monday, or next Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern.